Hi. I thought on this 48th anniversary of the 1975 Lebanese War, which in an age of inverted realities got somehow rechristened the Lebanese Civil War, um, I thought I'd say a few things about how um, this date reminds me, especially in this season of looking for a in the season of presidential vacancy in Lebanon, still looking for a president. So I'm reminded of a snippet from Charles Corm's 1934 La Montagne Inspirée, and I thought it would be appropriate to share this poem with you, especially in light of some of the chatter that's been making the rounds in Lebanon and on social media, chatter about France's official, or let's say Emmanuel Macron's official decision to deliver Lebanon on a silver platter to Hezbollah. After having promised the Lebanese, je ne vous lâcherai pas, he said, I will never forsake you. France will never forsake you, meaning he will not throw Lebanon to the Hezbollah beast. And so after having said that, after the port explosion, his visit a few days after that, his visit to Lebanon, I think it was on the 6th of August, he seems to have done an about face, a delicate Macronian pirouette, let's say, doing the opposite of what he's pledged to the Lebanese people, and actually delivering Lebanon to Hezbollah by giving a French stamp of approval in support of Slamine Frangi, in my opinion, a two-bit illiterate feudal thug and a servile dhimmi and Hezbollah lackey, and that's what's in store for Lebanon, if you will. And so, word to the wise on this commemoration of April 13th, 1975, just like Macron could not care less about France proper, his own country, how can the Lebanese expect him to have Lebanon's interests at heart? So this yields France's work in the gutters, if you will, approving Frangi as a consensus choice for the Lebanese presidency. So I'm going to read you a couple of Corm's strophes written or published in 1934. I imagine written much earlier, but a piece of a poem written with definitely today's lack of scruples and deviousness in mind. But first, actually, for those of you who don't know who Charles Corm is, he's the poet laureate of Phoenicianism, a late 19th, early 20th century humanist iteration of Lebanese patriotism, which is being vilified today by sensationalist internet illiterati who want you to know that Phoenicianism is racist and ridiculous. Anyway, here's what Said A'el writes in his 1963 eulogy of Charles Corm, and I thought it would be appropriate for an April 13th memorial and this season's presidential vacancy in Lebanon. I thought it would be appropriate to read this piece of the eulogy that A'el wrote in 1963. He begins, it is a stain of dishonor on Lebanon. He writes, a stain of dishonor on Lebanon and the Lebanese that this remarkable patriot, Charles Corm, was never afforded the opportunity to take the reins of government. Try to imagine, he said, this is still A'el, try to imagine Charles Corm even for a brief moment in time as the governor of the province of Beirut, as the minister of public education and fine arts, as the minister of public works, as the minister of foreign affairs, as the minister of urban development. Try to imagine Charles Corm as president of the Lebanese Republic. Yes, and why not? Let those who should feel offended by the audacity of such a thought, let them be offended. That is how things should have been, and I stand by what I say. Alas, Charles Corm has left us before we got him to fulfill our innermost desires. Still, to my sense, Charles Corm shall remain the only true president of the Republic of Lebanon, the only consummate, authentic, Lebanese that I know, the only man who is truly worthy of carrying in his heart the real ambitions of Lebanon, the only creative intellect of this land, spawning a most exquisite and most sophisticated genius dedicated solely to the service of Lebanon, end quote. And so that, of course, did not come to pass. Charles Corm passed on in 1963 at the age of 67, and his intellectual contributions to Lebanon and physical contributions. I mean, he made crazy contributions to what is today Lebanon, the first public library in Lebanon, the idea of the National Museum, the he had an idea for the Beirut River, actually turning it into a major waterway in Lebanon and tourist attraction ultimately. In any case, we know where Lebanon is today. And so I thought this snippet of a poem from 1934, which he titles Le Dit, it's from a longer poem in La Montagne Inspirée, and this section is called Le Dit de l'Agonie, the Saga of Suffering. And he describes in it with disturbing perspicacity and prescience what is going on today, and essentially the entire political history of modern Lebanon from 1926 to this day. So here's what this 39-year-old Charles Corm wrote in 1934. He begins, in rich covenants, struck under arches festooned with laurels, I can hear the bloody hoisting of 1,000 gallows. I can hear the shameful, wicked sound of gold changing hands, sinful gold, with which one buys clients and friends, pontiffs and poets, hideous gold, for which one sells brother, father, and mother, and even one's own infant offspring. That wretched gold that buys you Persian rugs and cosmetics, silk stockings and good time girls, the gold that buys judges and juries, conscience and character, gold for which you would sell your own soul, your very own country, and all the human race. Alarm bells in smoldering homes, horizons in retreat, walls tumbling down, and the rising rain of debauchery. L'âge de la crapule, he says in French. So let me stop here, but I'm going to follow up with other passages from Charles Corm and other folks, and I'll do that in the coming days. And I'll address those to Emmanuel Macron, reminding him of the long history of Franco-Lebanese relations, reminding him of an excerpt of an address sent to him yesterday, I think it was, by Michel Hello, um, and that sort of tries to remind him of Lebanon and France's millennial relationship. I think Hello wrote that the ties that bind together Lebanon and France are ancient, are historic, are millennial. That France, and that's Michel Hello says that France still has friends in Lebanon, and that Macron should be mindful of not squandering that friendship. But why should he care about Lebanon, right? He couldn't care less about his own country. In any case, let me stop here, and I'll pick it up in the next few days with my own reminders to Macron from his predecessors on the helm of the French government. Ciao.